What's up, everyone? Welcome to today's video. Welcome to the Video Game Fight School channel. Thank you very much for tuning in. We've been talking about Xbox's Game Pass. Some people don't use Game Pass, but they have concerns about the service. There have been different ones. Oh, it's for poor people. Oh, it's for this. Oh, it's not going to, allow for quality in the games. Oh, it's going to affect the developers. And then the one that I want to address today, because I've addressed a lot of these other ones in separate videos, is that how are they going to be able to sustain this from a content perspective? There's a financial perspective, like how can they sustain this from a financial perspective? I guess those two kind of blend with each other. I saw a comment from one of my audience members who said, how are they going to continue to bring quality content to Game Pass? Let's use an example of another subscription service, even though the content on that subscription service is a different genre of entertainment. Let's use Netflix, for example. Netflix has a baseline of movies and TV shows, which it's actually cultivated over the years. At first, when Netflix started, it used to rent you everybody's stuff on DVD. They'll mail it to you. Once their service went digital and online, then they started to coalesce a lot of content from everywhere else that was not Netflix's at all. Some of these content pieces, they have left, some have stayed for a long time, and they keep cycling through them. But over time, Netflix developed its own Netflix originals all over the place. So those Netflix originals are the baseline. In the case of Xbox, Microsoft's Xbox, when they started Game Pass, they had their own games on here as well. However, their baseline was not too strong. So in 2017, when Game Pass kicked off, it was much more emphatic on third-party games from publishers and developers all across the board. But over time, and more recently, Microsoft has spent about $90 billion changing up the whole ecosystem by acquiring Activision and acquiring Bethesda, giving them a massive library, or at least adding to their library, making it look a lot more chunky. Some of those games are going to eventually start coming to Game Pass. That is a future proposition that we're looking forward to, including the other studios all over the place. There's also the concern of, well, movies are not like games because they cost, differently to produce. Well, here's the thing, though. It all depends on the kind of movie, or it all depends on the kind of game. That's why in video games, we have what we call the AAA games, the AA games, the indie games. And in the movie side, they have the big celebrity A-list or A-tier list production in terms of that. And then you also have the independent movies and different tiers. That's why we have B-tier movies or whatever it is that they call them. Let me show you something on the Netflix side, because I know we want to talk about the $200 million games and so on and so forth when, on the gaming side on this, if we talk about it, not every game is made with $200 million, especially the older titles, right? But look at this movie that is actually the number 2 most watched movie right now on Netflix. It's called Atlas, featuring Jennifer Lopez and some, some named actors, some, established named actors. It actually has a budget of $100 million. In fact, right now, the conversation surrounding, TV shows like The Acolyte is talking about that show actually costing about $100 million as well. Now, the way they do movies and the way they do all that stuff, I don't believe that some of these shows should be costing about $100 million, to be honest, because those shows, some of them don't have any substance. They're boring at the end of the day, but hey, to each their own. However, there are also shows and, movies that cost way less. And you still see those movies and those shows on Netflix, and they don't even belong to Netflix. In fact, let me give you guys a crazy one. Publishers like Warner Brothers will put their stuff on things like Game Pass and also put their stuff on places like Netflix. In here, just more recently, you would see, if you go to Netflix, you see the Lego movie. That is actually kind of a Lego and Warner Brothers, combination in terms of the Batman Lego movies and stuff that have appeared on Netflix. There have also been a lot of stuff from the HBO lineup. The Superman movies were on Netflix a while back. The Batman was on Netflix as well. So the content is coming in from everybody else, and so is the case with Game Pass. Game Pass is not just sitting here only using its baseline of Microsoft-owned games. It is cycling through third-party publishers and developers who are interested in putting their games here. Because most of those games, they only come on here for a time frame and then they leave. That's usually how it works. And it allows for people to discover games that they want. And if they want to, acquire the game, then they acquire the game either here or they acquire the game somewhere else. One example of a game that was on Game Pass for a while that actually finally got me to play it was Nier Automata. I played this game here on Game Pass for a little bit. It's a game that I've been looking forward to playing, never really had time. But when they said it was going away from Game Pass, I was like, well, I don't know if I want to buy it on Game Pass. I knew I didn't want to buy it on Game Pass. That's not like I didn't know. I was like, I don't want to buy this game on Game Pass. So what I did was, after the game left, and then as I got more time, I went ahead and I got myself a copy on Steam. It's right here. And this is the Steam copy for me, which I've played a little bit more. And I'm kind of, slugging my way through it whenever I get time. So this is something that Game Pass even offers that a subscription service like Netflix does not even give you the option to even offer to even have. Like you can't even buy products on Netflix. Everything there is a subscription, and they want to even lock you in there much more. So on the gaming side, the publishers know that gamers they have their own likes, and they have things that they probably are not necessarily fond of. Like gamers will like the option to be able to acquire and get a title. And so when a game leaves Game Pass, they would love to be able to possibly own it, maybe keep their they want to continue their saves, they want to continue their progress. So there are accommodations for games that are different from movies in a sense. But if anybody was wondering how the subscription model was going to be sustained with influx of content, they need to realize and understand that even though Game Pass has its baseline model, it continues to welcome and bring in third-party games every cycle. In fact, majority of the games that come to Game Pass, and cycle through Game Pass, they don't just stay on Game Pass. They cycle through. They'll come for a while. They'll leave. Most of them are third-party games, and it gives the third-party, developers, especially the games that are maybe a little dated, it gives them an opportunity to get their games to basically be exposed to other people. Like in the case of Nier Automata, where I knew about the game, I'd always wanted to play it. I played a little on Game Pass, and I enjoyed it, and then eventually I went ahead and bought myself a copy. I mean, Square Enix and Platinum Games, they were excited, I'm sure, to have one more sale, and Game Pass was basically the exposure that pretty much gave that sale to them. So this is where the tit for tat comes in. And so I hope that this particular question and concern is alleviated. Now, I know that a lot of these concerns, some of them are genuine. They come from a place of like, how can we be in an industry where this is the thing? The same thing has happened for movie and entertainment. At some point, there's a saturation in the market over a particular product or commodity. And I think in gaming, we've hit a saturation point. So basically, we're going the way of the movies and the TV shows. There's only so much you can watch, and there's only so much that you have time and attention for. So already you're going to start seeing a bunch of stuff like this going everywhere. In fact, YouTube has a movie, compilation of old movies that you can watch for free for just ads. That's crazy. I think we're probably going to get to a point where they're going to be putting games on, services where all you got to do is just basically pay for ads, and you're not even going to need to pay for a subscription. That time is coming very soon. Games are not special, man. They're just a form of entertainment, and they actually are obedient to market forces. Thanks for watching the video. Appreciate you guys so much. Hopefully we'll talk pretty soon in another one. Peace out.